All right, folks, big jobs reports came out today. The federal government report shows the U.S. economy added 431,000 jobs in March. That brings the unemployment rate to a new pandemic-era low of 3.6%. The job gains were lower than economists had expected, but they still rounded up a solid first quarter for the U.S. labor market. President Joe Biden says that job creation has been at an all-time high since he has been in office.
Over the course of my presidency, our recovery has now created 7.9 million jobs. More jobs created over the first 14 months of any presidency in any term ever. And that's striking. But what's even more striking is this. In March, the unemployment rate fell to 3.6%, down from 6.4% when I took office about 15 months ago. The fastest decline in unemployment to start a president's term ever recorded. In fact, there have been only 3 months in the last 50 years where the unemployment rate in America is lower than it is now.
All right, the U.S. economy is now just 1.6 million jobs short of where it was in February of 2020 before the pandemic hit. Earlier today, I talked to Dr. Cecilia Rouse, the chair of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. Here is what she had to say about today's jobs report and the state of the U.S. economy.
All right, this is Dr. Cecilia Rouse. Big Friday for the economy, for the White House. Surely, as the top economic voice for the president, you must feel pretty good today.
Well, today was a day when we got the jobs report, and it was a good day because it reaffirmed the strength that we believed we were seeing in the U.S. economy, where since we learned that in March, the economy created an additional 400,000 jobs, which means that over the last 3 months, we've created over 500,000 jobs per month. So this has been a very strong economy, largely thanks to the American Rescue Plan, the effectiveness of our management of the pandemic, supporting households, supporting businesses, and it reflects that we've got a resilient economy that is positioned to weather the shocks that may come in the future.
It's been very interesting as we've been looking at how this has been unfolding, and it's not just the jobs reports that come out when we also have the adjustments made when it comes to the job reports. I remember last year, I guess it was November and December, and folks were like, "Oh my God, this report is so awful," and I was sitting there going, "Yeah, I might want to breathe." And then 2 months later, then it was adjusted. And so just share with people why it's important for some folks to pump the brakes on the initial numbers and understand that that's just, again, the initial. Things also change as you get more data.
Absolutely. So I won't go even further than that. So at the Council of Economic Advisors, we say every month, we study every month and we think about every month and try to understand what's happening in any 1 month. We don't like to focus on 1 month for that reason, which is that these data are the initial read. There will be a revision to these data. For example, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has added up. They've looked back on January, February, and combined in those 2 months, they've said actually the economy added an additional 95,000 jobs in those 2 months. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they said when they briefed us yesterday that the response rate, they don't have all of their data in yet. They will have additional data that they will have in. They will revise upward or downward, but they will revise their estimate next month as well and the month after. In addition, these are estimates of the economy, and so they use techniques to try to understand what is happening that's usual or not unusual in any 1 month. And what you're referring to is that in January, they did a whole look back on how they benchmark and how they do adjustments for population because they had the new census. And they made some adjustments to their estimates going back over all of 2021 as well. So what we like to look at are trends, and what we can see in this labor market is that the trends have been solid. Over the course of the past year, this economy has added 7.9 million jobs. That's in the 14 months since the president took office. We've seen a robust improvement in the labor force participation rate. If you want to look at Black Americans, at the height of, or the depths of the pandemic in May 2020, the unemployment rate was 16.8%, and today it's down to about 6.2%. That's a number. I don't want to focus specifically on the 6.2, but the change is dramatic and reflects the strength of this economy.
I was watching a conversation take place on a clip that was on Fox Business, and they were complaining that, oh my God, but we don't have enough people in the workforce, and these increase in wages is what's contributing to inflation. I never realized that an increase in wages was bad.
Well, look, we fundamentally want to see workers being paid according to their productivity. And we want families and workers to be paid their fair wage so they can put food on the table, pay their rent. So we welcome wage increases that are based on productivity increases and that truly reflect the increase and what workers are contributing to the employers. The reason why they're worried about it is because wages are a component of a business's costs. And so the concern is, does that get passed on? Well, the wage increases we've seen to date have been in low-wage workers whose wage increases have actually been higher than inflation. At the moment, it looks as though these are wage increases that reflect the supply and demand mismatch, which is part of working our way through the pandemic. We are keeping our eye on this. At the moment, we don't think it's being baked in a way that's not sustainable, but it is something we are quite attuned to.
So explain in layman's terms, and I'm always trying to use my show as Civics 101 for folks to understand where we are. And even at the news conference today, reporters were shouting to the president, what about inflation? What about inflation? And just give folks an understanding of really why we are at the point now with inflation. I have my own view, and that is we had companies that were that were nailed significantly economically in 2020 and 2021. You're seeing price increases because they're trying to make up all the money that they lost. And bottom line is this year, when you've had supply chain demands, we still have it, where you have a robust people want goods and services, but you don't have enough and you're not making enough. Guess what? The cost of goods are actually going to go up.
So, look, we've seen inflation around the world, and it reflects that economies that could afford to do so, governments that could afford to do so, supported their workers and their businesses through the depths of the pandemic, so that the workers and their families and the businesses had the funds to continue to buy foods, buy goods, to continue making those purchases that they felt they needed to make. At the same time, though, so we had demand was supported. At the same time, what we learned through the pandemic is that the supply was challenged. It was challenged because those very same workers who were, might have been affected by COVID, or in China, they closed down factories, were unable to keep up with the demand. When you have a supply-demand mismatch, so you have too much demand chasing the limited supply, as you pointed out, you're going to have price increases. Americans bought more goods than is typical. Those goods have to be shipped. They have to be built, they have to be shipped, they have to be transported over land to be put into stores or delivered to one's house. And we had record amounts going through our ports, and the system couldn't quite keep up with the robust demand. That will work itself out. But on top of that, we have the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And what that means is that Russia is a major supplier of gas and oil to the world, a little less so for the US, but for the world. So what we've seen is an increase in gas prices and in oil prices. And that not only is affecting prices at the pump, but it's finding its way into other goods as well. So that price increases the president is focused on. He is trying to address. That's why he did the release of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve yesterday, to try to get more oil supply onto the global market. But fundamentally, it is the pandemic and now it is the war that's underlying this inflation.
So the next step here, and that is, when you look at these economic numbers, when you look at these job numbers, look, they're supposed to be good, but when you look at poll numbers, they are down. I know you're all about the numbers, but the messaging of what has happened with the economy is also important. So what is that conversation taking place in the White House, and how do you convey this to the American people, what's going on? Because what I'm seeing in numbers, in poll numbers, is completely different than when you look at what's actually happening with the economic numbers.
It's been a really hard 2 years, Roland, and the president gets it. He is so thrilled that Americans are back to work. We have an economy that's on the move. And that's been so important to him. We know we're not done yet. There's still work to be done. We're still about 93% of the jobs that we lost in the course of the pandemic have been regained. But there's still people who are out of the labor force who were working before. So we know that there is still work to be done. But he is thrilled that those who want to work are able to get a job. But he gets it. This has been hard, and inflation hits families in their pocketbooks. It's no fun when you go to the grocery store and the price of a gallon of milk or a pound of hamburger or the price of a gallon of gas at the pump is more than your one's used to paying, which is why he is focused on addressing the supply chains, trying to lower costs for families through his economic policies, and trying to adjust the prices at the pump. So, I think it's been a hard 2 years, but the good news is if we continue to manage this pandemic, we will get to the other side of it and resume our normal lives.
All right, Dr. Cecilia Rouse, always good to see you. Thanks a bunch for breaking it all down for us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Just so y'all know, again, the top economic person is a sister. Dr. Cecilia Rouse is a brilliant sister. She also was one of the economic advisors on the President Barack Obama, but she is the chief economic advisor. Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?